let's discuss COVID-19, the respiratory virus that attacks the respiratory system. Symptoms: fever, a dry cough, they say, some say a cough with film, shortness of breath. You have these symptoms and several other conditions. And the reason that is because the body only has so many ways to express. Several of those simple symptoms when a body expresses itself are either a form of healing or a form of detoxification. Now, as far as viruses, 15 to 20% of all viruses are coronaviruses. There are 7 different strands of coronavirus. MERS and SARS were coronaviruses. Humans been around billions of years with viruses in the environment, which animals carry. Viruses are also excreted by your cells. I'm going to talk a little about exosomes later in the video and how the cells secrete viruses. Herpes virus. More than half of the population have herpes 1 and herpes 2. And the Epstein-Barr virus, which you get from kissing and sharing drinks. Are we wearing masks? Are we no longer kissing our spouse? Because that's a form of transferring those viruses through the fluids. Now, how the body responds to viruses? 2 different ways. There's cell-mediated immune response, which is intracellular, the body dealing with bacteria, viruses, and different microbes inside the cell. There's antibody-mediated immunity, which deals with the fluids outside of the cell, which can be blood, urine, cerebral spine fluid, and things like that, where those viruses and bacteria hide. A cell-mediated immune response begins with activation of a small number of T cells by a specific antigen. Once a T cell has been activated, it undergoes proliferation and differentiation into a clone of effector cells, a population of identical cells that can recognize the same antigen and carry out some aspects of the immunity. So what you see right here is a dendritic cell coming on the scene. And it's called a dendritic cell because it's long branch projections that resemble the dentries of a neuron. It assists in the maturation process of the T cells because when they migrate from the red bone marrow to the cortex of the thymus, they're immature. Most T cells arrive before puberty, but they continue to mature and leave the thymus throughout life. There's helper T cells, memory T cells, which you see here, and then there's cytotoxic T cells, which you see in this picture right here. So you got to be able to see that this is bigger than the virus. And the reason why the things that are happening are no surprise to me, because I've seen the game being played before with HIV, which was supposed to be that epidemic that was supposed to wipe us all out. This was supposed to go on with HIV. And at the time you had Galileo instead of Anthony Fuxi, or whatever his name is, up there spreading lies and misinformation to build his career. I looked through all the medical journals and papers, and I couldn't find not one paper talking about a doctor, nurse, somebody, a physician getting HIV from a patient, being in contact with them. I posted a 10-year study on my page, which I'll show on here, where it showed how hard it is actually to catch HIV through sexual intercourse. It's very hard. HIV is another fraud that does not turn into AIDS. The same thing with this virus. I can see it coming a mile away. I know people personally that have tested positive. Whenever you're dealing with the test, just like the HIV test, there are many things that can give you a false positive. people that they're saying here, like I had an uncle just pass, and they said that he tested COVID-19 positive. I have another family member that had a friend that spleen ruptured, and they tested him, and they, you know, because he had a fever. A fever comes with, I mean, not a spleen rupture, appendix rupture. You know what I'm saying? Appendix problems. I knew that people were dying really because they're pre-existing health conditions. Because when you have a healthy immune system, it's going to deal with viruses. These viruses are not going to take you down. The top 10 causes of death: heart disease, hypertension, cancer, road incidents. These diseases, which are not actually the thing that's killing people, is actually the cause of these diseases, are not taking the back seat to this virus. You know, daily around the world, 7 out of 1,000 people die every day. It's like 50 million something people die every day. And now, every time someone dies, it has to say coronavirus. People no longer die from heart disease, cancer, lower respiratory infection illnesses, and pneumonia, which is where I'm at in Louisiana, which is a hot spot. A lot of people die from lower respiratory illnesses and pneumonia. These diseases are not taking the back seat to the coronavirus. They remain top causes of death. Right now you got doctors at hospitals dressed in fucking hazmat suits, all covered up, respirators, doing all kind of crazy shit, scared to catch a virus. I seen this before with HIV. I searched the medical journals. You could not find out one doctor or one nurse that contracted HIV from a patient. So why we got all this shit on? Take it off. This is the British epidemiologist William Falk. He was the first to recognize the seasonal rise and fall of microbial epidemics. He recognized that infectious diseases rapidly explode in the population, and then it declined within months because it stops by elimination, either by death or by something more natural like immunization naturally. Several epidemics of the past have been caused by vitamin deficiencies, a lack of nutrients. Vitamin C, vitamin B, vitamin D, and vitamin A are important. This particular one is scurvy, which is a vitamin C deficiency. You can see the bleeding gums and the spots and wounds on the body. You also had the epidemic of pellagra, which was a niacin deficiency. You can see the rough skin on the dude right here. Beriberi, which was a vitamin B deficiency that caused heart failure, heart problems. Then there's vitamin A deficiency, which caused night blindness, childhood blindness, and blindness all over the world. Then there's vitamin D deficiency. Brittle bones, osteoporosis. Anything dealing with bad bone health is due to lack of vitamin D. And what's important in the process of vitamin D is a healthy functioning liver, which we tend to destroy by excessive alcoholism, fatty food, fatty liver disease, and doing liver detoxes with herbs. Calcitrol, which is needed to process the vitamin D, right? Black women have the strongest bones, like Wolverine, and you can look that up. We need sunlight. Sunlight is actually, the sun radiation besides oxygen. So the radiation from the sun, the radiation from the universe, dealing with the stars, because we are like our minerals, all that is a process of stardust and radiation from the environment, which builds structures. A way I can explain it is, you look at the 4 phases of water. Water turns to vapor, liquid, solid. Then the 4th phase is that strong structure that it has. When you look at how, what is called the Jesus lizard, it runs on water. The reason why the Jesus lizard is able to run on water, because of the 4th phase of water, that solid crystal-like structure of water that's hardened. And that's the same way that the body, the bones are built. Because if you look at it, we're what, 60% water, even more when we're a baby, right? We're like 75% water. And so once the bones start to build, that's the 4th phase of water. The test's not very accuracy. I think it may have an 80% false positive rate. It tests for an RNA sequence, not the virus. There's no gold standard. Virus isolation is the gold standard. It's never been purified and visualized. It has only been visualized from one patient inside of a human cell. Did it even pass Koch's postulates? So here's a photo of exosomes under a microscope and COVID-19 under a microscope. As you see, the diameters are the same inside the cell and outside the cell. They both use the same receptors, the ACE2. Both contain RNA. Both of them are found in bronchial alveolar lung fluid. So there's a lot of similarities between COVID and exosomes. So what are exosomes? They are membrane enclosed vessels actively released into the extracellular space, whose content reflect the physiological or pathological state of the cells they originate from. So in layman terms, your cells pee and poo just like you. You are a conjugation of a bunch of different cells that develop from the parent cell. So we are cellular organisms. Exosomes can either spread or limit infection depending on the type of pathogen or target cells. Now, what they're doing now is using these things as candidates for the development of antiviral or vaccine treatments. Exosomes released from infected cells harbor and deliver many regulatory factors, including viral RNA and proteins, and viral and cellular miRNA, and other functional genetic elements to neighboring cells. So it's a strong possibility that the virus we're dealing with is just cellular waste secretion of exosomes and not what they're saying. I have come to the conclusion that most of these patients do not have COVID-19. The tests are inaccurate. Most of these patients have had false positive. They are dying from pre-existing health conditions, and we should send them home and get them on a good diet that involves plants and fruits like kale, cantaloupe, citrus fruits, apples, sunlight for vitamin D. And let's quit all the madness. Thank you.